this is the Happy Weight Podcast and my name is Aoife Dean. Thank you so much for joining me. Now that a lot of the schools have gone back in the last week or going back this week, it's term time again, and that's such an opportunity for new routine, and it's a really good opportunity to just shake things up in general. When we have eating and weight issues, we might have bad memories from term time going back after summer holidays or after being off work, or just, shorter days, longer, darker evenings. And we might have a whole host of bad memories about our eating last autumn, last winter. And now this is a big opportunity to start again or restart with fresh energy, with a new approach, and to approach everything, yourself, your body, your eating, so differently from last autumn, winter, or any of the years before it. We need to keep remembering we're big enough and bad enough to face mistakes and learn from them, because people who succeed, and people who succeed a lot, are not afraid to fail, and they're not afraid to get things wrong. If I think of my worst times with eating and weight issues, it would have been like a Malteser extra would have spiraled me into like self-hate, self-loathing. A few drinks extra, a pizza slice I said I wouldn't eat and then I ate. Like all of that would have taken me out in terms of my self-talk, my confidence. So now we have to turn it all around, because we just don't need that attitude anymore. And I do think a certain point comes in life where you're sick enough with eating and weight issues. Maybe you've dealt with them a long time, or maybe it's been quite severe at times, or maybe just your weight is going up and up and up bit by bit with the current approach that you have or that you've had. I think it's good to be fed up. I think it's good to be fed up, because fed up maybe gives us the opportunity to say literally anything is better than this. Like, if my approach, my negativity, my guilt, my shame, if that has not worked, like I remember thinking that myself, like I gave self-hatred every opportunity to work and to help weight loss. It doesn't. Turns out it causes a lot more comfort eating, destructive avoidance of exercise, or avoiding anything that could make you possibly feel good. The good news is that the worst is over. Like, if you're willing to take my advice, the worst is over, because most eating and weight issues come from a really wrong approach to ourselves, to our self-care, to our self-talk. And of course, a huge part of that being what we eat, how we use food to feel, whether we use food to make us feel well and lucky and celebrating life and exploring new tastes and exploring new feelings, or whether we believe that we deserve to be punished with food, that everyone else can be out there enjoying food, but we can't. We've gained weight. We've done something wrong. Food isn't fun for us. We deserve to eat stuff that we're told to eat, that we should eat. And, like I said, all that negativity is what causes weight problems. We don't realize it when we're in it. We think that just one more diet and I could lose the weight, but just one more diet will probably send us up another few pounds. Just thinking again, right, about restarting our routine. Actually, before I start into that, can I just tell you a story from today, right? I was with a client and she was telling me about Monday night, because she's just started a program. So we were chatting on Monday, and she was going to be heading out for dinner with her friends, right? They were going to a pizza restaurant, and her main thing was she didn't want to drink. She'd been on holidays in France. She'd had plenty of wine, and she was like looking forward to a bit of a detox and drinking less. We discussed all that, and we kind of discussed designing her night. And I'm all about like, we are not scrimping on fun. We are not scrimping on a good attitude with our friends and with food and everything. The only thing we're cutting out now to get rid of eating and weight issues is the waste. the stuff that is not performing, the foods that aren't tasting good enough or are not going to let us feel well in 20 minutes time. The one-too-manys are the ones that are going to mean we're leaving in a potato coma or bloated or sluggish or whatever. So I think we want all of the good stuff. We just want to delete the bad stuff and minimize that. So then I was talking to her today, right? And I had seen her food diary and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So on Monday night, you met up with those friends who you normally have a drink with and you didn't have a drink with them. And she was like, yeah, but I really think I could have stopped at one pizza slice less. And I'm like, take the win. Take the win. You didn't drink and that was a big thing. That's what we had been chatting about. That's huge. If they were friends, right, who drink, or whenever she meets up with them, she does have a few drinks. Like the ability to say no when you want to say no. And that doesn't mean every time she'll meet up with them, she won't have a drink. But I'm like, that's so cool to have options. That's so cool to even prepare them for, oh, sometimes she'll have a drink and sometimes she won't, because that's exactly how we want to prepare the people around us as we get to a good relationship with food, that we're not an all or nothing person anymore. So we might have dessert, we might not have dessert, we might get extra sauce, we might add a side of chips, we might need any chips, we might get a salad. That when we're listening to our body, we're super unpredictable because we're only ordering to make ourselves feel well 20 minutes after that meal or leaving that restaurant. So what that entails will change every time. But I just thought that was like such a good story, right? Because when we're in eating and weight issues, we have a terrible lack mentality. There could have been 40 positive mini choices we made about how we managed the day, how we managed our self-care, the foods we chose or we prepared or whatever. There could have been loads of positive food and hydration or exercise or movement or sleep choices during the day. But with a weight problem, we will zone in on the handful of ones that we're not happy with and we will make a big deal of them. And then it's back to the whole energy flows where your attention goes. Like we carry a weight problem in our mind every day by choosing to focus on the things that then we justify as, you see, I've such a weight problem, I'm such eating issues. But like I said, that's like an imbalanced view of things because we're just focusing on those handful of things rather than all the other things that we got right. If you can look back on how you've been eating over the last 7 days, like I dare you to spot all the things that were good about it. Don't give it energy about the stuff you were not happy with, but really lay it on thick about all the things that you were very happy with, because progress breeds progress, success breeds success. You can't build on nothing. So if you look back on the last 7 days and you literally can't see any positives, you've nothing to build on, or if you can't see anything good about your body, you've nothing to build on. But once you increase your ability to see positive things, you're at the same time increasing your ability to make more positive things. The second thing I wanted to mention, especially in terms of like, okay, new September, new term time, fresh start, or even if you're listening to this and it's not September, like we can click our fingers and decide it's a new start. And I remember that being quite monumental for me actually, because in a weight problem, we're all about the phases. Like I'm in a bad phase or I'm in a good phase and wait till I get this project in or wait till my period passes. And it's like, nah, screw that. Like you can click your fingers and be like, okay, from here on in, I decide to adopt the attitude of someone who's proud of themselves or proud of their weight, or I'm going to just adopt that ideal weight mentality. So we can click our fingers and do that whenever we want. We do not need to wait, because generally waiting is staying in the wrong mindset. There was one client I had, right, and she used kind of manage well enough, and then Thursday night, just a mix of all the jobs with her kids, her husband, her actual job, the house, bills, the car, all the stress and all the tiredness came at once on a Thursday night. And when we were working together, initially Thursday night used to be her issue, right? And so I might have said this on other episodes, but I think it's really important now, right? if you were to think of the term to come and the winter evenings closing in, what's your biggest fear basically? What are the things that you feel always go wrong? Like maybe this time of year means more projects at work or more business travel or more people visiting or more cozy nights in or whatever it might be, whatever you think your kind of big blip that could come in this term is, identify it, right? And then what we need to identify as part of that is what might have caused that. Because when I'm telling you that story, right, about the client, that everything came to a head on a Thursday night, it's not as if she needed to study the food pyramid more. Like, that was not the issue. She does not need to learn any more nutrition. And if she did learn any more nutrition, that would not change the emotional eating on a Thursday night. And willpower is not a solution for a permanent change in eating. We really want to look at this now in a more trying to get to the bottom of the problem situation. And in her situation, we talked a lot about, because I think overeating and binge eating is like a pressure valve increasing. And then we hit breaking point and it's just like, all our eating goes out the window and we overeat or we binge or all our plans or whatever just fall to pieces and we feel back to square one and all of that. So we now want to notice where was the lack? Because whenever there's overeating, there was something you missed out on. There was something you didn't get enough of. So that lady, if her Thursday night was the problem, there was somewhere along the Monday to Thursday where she was burning the candle on both ends, or her food wasn't good enough. And by good, I mean your food has to perform. You have to feel literally satisfied, done, lucky to have eaten what you've eaten so that you can carry on your day without food noise. But if you're putting like limits to your food, if you're like not allowing certain foods and you're leaving meals kind of lacking, like you don't really feel totally complete, satisfied, lucky, you didn't get that sense of pleasure or fulfillment from the food, like we can't get away with many of those meals before there will be a binge or an overeating session. So I think sometimes, and I remember having to do this for myself, you have to be really honest about where was the lack, because it might have been the case that like you for whatever reason, your body wanted a third slice of bread in the morning and you jumped in and controlled. And then, when our Thursday night overeating is happening, we can be like, well, you did pull back there. You did control. So for every one controlling moment with food, there's going to be at least one out of control moment with food, because not listening to your body is not listening. So if you're not going to listen to your body when your body is saying, can I have one more slice of bread in order for my belly to feel perfectly comfortable? Well, then another time of the week, it's going to be easy for you, for your belly to be like, yeah, I'm fine, thanks, I don't need any more. And for you to say, screw that, I'm eating more. So there's that side of it. There's the nutritional side of it. And then I suppose there's obviously the support side of it. There's kind of looking at your life or your week and what is not working. What is the repeated bad mood? What is the repeated trigger to the bad mood? What is a situation that you could easily avoid? We want to work backwards to the problem. My mind went elsewhere there because I had a client yesterday, right? Speaking of walking into the same triggers all the time. And she was telling me about, she was size 20, right? And now she's size 16 and she's continuing to lose weight. But she said like her brain hasn't caught up at all. And like her kind of body dysmorphia and self-hatred is basically still there. And she was like, I look at my mirror in my room and, I just hate my body, can't see anything good about it. And I was like, okay, can we just get some details on that mirror? And then she was like, well, yeah, it probably is a kind of awful mirror. It actually is slanted kind of up and it cuts off my head. And I was like, okay, because I think with all of this, right, there's things we should overcome. And then there's obstacles we should not put in our own way. Like there's literally no point making things harder for ourselves. So in that situation, I was like put all the work. And like maybe a psychologist would say, oh, you need to get over that, there's more work to be done. But I'm like, make things easier for yourself. Get a freaking gorgeous mirror, get one of those ones that you plug in and there's a ring light around it. Put it by natural light as well. So, you know, daylight is always way more flattering. Like, do all the jigs and reels to make that mirror nice and to help the image you see in it, rather than having the absolute worst case scenario of a mirror and looking awful in it and thinking you're the problem. Like, if anyone of any size looked in the mirror she was talking about, they'd feel awful about their body. That's another change we need to make when we're getting out of weight problems, because I think we were always looking for opportunities to say, look, you see, it's me. I'm just not good enough. I just should try harder. I'm just such a failure. And now we want to look at it the other way, that like, hey, how can I make things easier for myself? How can there be less emotional obstacles for myself? How can there be less low moments in the week? How can there be less, I don't know, super tired, super hungry, super unsatisfied moments in the week? That's what we want to start looking for now. The other main point, I think, about, you know, restarting with fresh energy. We get to have fresh energy again and again and again with every start. We get to be optimistic, you know, because the thing is with food, you have to eat every day of your life. Like, the terms and conditions of you being healthy over the next month are eating like probably 60,000 calories. Like, there are a lot of foods ahead of you. There are a lot of calories ahead of you, regardless of what weight you are. It's just the terms and conditions of being alive, just like we need oxygen every day. So considering this is a non-negotiable, considering eating and food is a non-negotiable, it makes sense to work on having a gorgeous relationship with food that will serve us the rest of our life. I had a client today, right? And she's just back from holidays and she's not from Ireland, and she was at home and she had a really great time for 3 weeks, and now she's post-holiday, but especially post if you've been at home and you're a little bit homesick and all of that. But also she just ate so well at home, and she really cemented new ground with her mom and her parents. So historically they would have commented on her weight, they would have been triggers with food. She's over all of that. Like, we've been working together. She's at the end of her program now, so she's really practiced all that stuff. She's in a great place with it. So she was just feeling really amazing after being at home. Like, you know, just, you know, she had lots of outdoor time too. She had, like, their country is way better for, you know, natural, gorgeous, homemade food. So she was saying to me, and she said she had been saying to her friends, she's just really worried about what being back in Cork now will mean, and heading back into autumn and winter. And she really just doesn't want to unravel how well she's been feeling, because, like, you know, she's just feeling really nice in her body and she's just loving how she's eating and everything. And she's like, you know, I was really scared of arriving in Dublin airport and getting a bag of jellies and, you know, just going straight back to that icky feeling. I was kind of saying part of our job now, changing our mindset, is noticing when our brain is deviating into the problem again and fantasizing and visualizing and perfecting that in our mind's eye, rather than the solution and the outcome. And I have a very visual mind, maybe like a lot of people. And I remember when I was going through this myself, I used to imagine a trampoline. Like, I used to imagine, like, when my brain was like, but maybe you could eat too much. Maybe, oh my God, by Christmas, you'll be even heavier. Maybe your eating could actually get worse. Maybe you will undo all the progress you've made. When my mind was going on and on and on about that, I used to imagine jumping from that trampoline to another trampoline of, what do I want instead? And I also think about it like, you know, when a toddler is having a tantrum and they're like, I don't want that dinner. And you're like, okay, what dinner do you want? Or what toy do you want? Or whatever, you know, you're kind of like, I actually can barely like hear you or communicate with you. You're screaming so much about what you don't want. And we have to notice when our brain is doing that for us too. Like, us visualizing how bad the winter could be or how bad the next term could be. Like, in another way now, when we change our mindset, what an awesome opportunity, because you get to design from scratch what a gorgeous autumn would look like. You know what I mean? Like, because if you've been putting details and details and details and details onto what you don't want, That's like putting an area into Google Maps and then putting the air code into Google Maps and just getting more and more and more specific about your destination, except it's a destination you don't want. So now we want to put the slightly more zoned in picture, then down to the nitty gritty. Like I was talking to this client about like a pint on a rainy Saturday in Mutton Lane, that pub in Cork, or, maybe like a Starbucks or an autumny kind of drink by the river with your like scarf and hat and one of your buddies, or, a walk with the dog on Sunday, and I don't know, maybe going to a food market, and like designing in your head what this autumn is going to look like. And maybe if you have kids, maybe that means picking them up from training and you've got like a flask of hot chocolate, and having all these magical positive moments with food that someone with a bad relationship with food could not achieve. So you're really zoning in on those magical moments, those positive moments, that actually that vision means a lot, right? Because that vision means you're putting more detail onto the person you're becoming and the persona you will have as someone without a weight problem. Because like I said, people with weight problems can't do stuff like that. They can't casually, eat a burger at a food market and not feel guilty, or walk home after it feeling lovely, or they can't have a pint without, counting the calories, feeling the guilt. If we're marrying the lovely, say, opportunities with food, the locations with food, the people we'll be having them with, maybe even the weather, maybe what we're wearing, all of those little details. But probably most importantly, always, is the physical feelings as well. So like as in with the hot chocolate, you being like, say, in love with the taste of that hot chocolate. So why that is such a goal is because it shows you're in your body and not in your mind. And if you're in your body when you're eating and drinking, chances are you're going to be helping your weight. You're going to be listening to your body signals, and you're going to be regulating your intake for your ideal weight based on your body signals. What is such a better goal than the scales is timestamps of the week, because the timestamps of the week show that you've changed. Like how I know I've changed is because I don't binge on a Friday night, when before all of my Friday nights would have been a binge. It was a huge change for me when I started visualizing what I do want out of food and what I do want out of the night, what I do want out of the season, rather than what I don't want. So you could have such fun with that. And depending like how your brain works, depending if you like journaling, if you like drawing and coloring, like that could be so lovely to get to grips with designing your designing your September and your months to come. So I hope today's episode helped. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again. Mwah, 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 mwah.